Welcome to another episode of Come and See. I'm your host, Mariam Nagy, and today we have with us John Shawqi and Monica Mikhail. Last episode, we spoke about being engaged in the church, especially when it comes to our youth and being at the critical age of being teenagers or young adults. We are continuing our episode this week by talking about advice that we can give the parents on how to keep their kids engaged in the church. And we're not going to focus on a certain age group. We would like to talk about being engaged in the church from when they're kids until they're obviously adults. We're going to be getting the perspective of both servants and youth. So why don't we start with John? I want to hear some advice that you can give to parents. I know you have two young girls, so I would love to hear your perspective as a parent as well, and as a servant, and of course as someone who grew up here.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of times as a servant, you view things differently than being a parent. But I would venture to say that I have more of a complete picture now that I have my two daughters. So
I would agree.
Yeah, from the servant's perspective, I know the thing that drives us crazy is parents constantly asking, how come you guys are not doing more? Why aren't you engaging the kids more? I want to tell all the parents, there's only a couple of servants in each class. So as a parent, what you need to do is you need to engage your children. You need to talk to them about church at home. You need to read the Bible with them at home. We have them for 2 hours on Sunday. You have them every day. So from a servant's perspective, my advice to them is to engage the kids at home. And from a parent's perspective, now I understand why we go and blame the servants, because a lot of times you're at home and you're very busy, but at the end of the day, you have to look at it from an investment. Where are you going to invest your time? Are you going to invest your time in preparing a really hard to prepare dinner, or can you make them a simple dinner and spend some time reading the Bible instead? It's a constant choice at home.
Okay, perfect. And what's your advice, Mark?
So my perspective is a little different than John's because I'm not a parent. But I do have a younger brother, and just from my experiences growing up, it makes a big difference when you grow up in a family that is used to going to church a lot, or like praying together or reading the Bible, because then as you grow older, you just get used to it. So like now I naturally go to church because I was used to that when I was little. If I was in a different family where like church wasn't important, or it was only something you go to Christmas or Easter, then I wouldn't be as involved. And it's kind of like people like to do what they're used to. So also with like what my little brother, he came when he was really young. So for him, he didn't grow up as much in the church as I did when I was in Egypt. So for him, it's a little different. It's a little harder to, want to go to church. But it's also like my parents are really good in encouraging us, like, okay, at least I know it's early on Sunday mornings, to get up early, but that's why we have different liturgies. We have like a later one. And they're really good about making sure that at least like it's not every day, but at least once a week we all read the Bible together, and we talk about it and discuss it, like what does this mean. So it's definitely something important for parents to make sure their kids grow up in an environment that's comfortable with church and prayer and reading the Bible, because like John was saying, the servants can only do so much. If the parents are not encouraging their kids to apply what they learn in church at home, then they're not going to.
So you touched on a great point of what your parents did with you when you were younger. So John, I want to ask you the same question. How did your parents encourage you to stay engaged in the church? And what worked and what didn't work?
So not to blow up my parents' spot, right? But I think they both had very different perspectives. Okay. My father felt like it was more left to my mom to do that. And my mom, the one thing that stands out to me is the bedtime stories and the Bible readings and the Agbeya reading on Saturday. So it was 3 things that we did with my mother that made a huge difference.
Okay.
I don't know if engaged or plugged in is the right word.
Okay.
I don't think they ever pushed me to that limit. So to me, for the longest time, church was something I did on Sundays. But once I served, that's when that engagement came, because then I felt like I was responsible for something beyond myself. So I think maybe when a parent can push their child to do that at an early age, even just something simple like helping something, cleaning something, that sense of responsibility might grow the need inside that child to continue to serve and to continue to come.
So can I ask, what encouraged you to serve?
It has nothing to do with God for me. It was,
Okay.
as a little kid, I always wanted to be a teacher, right? So this idea that I will teach somebody something. So maybe it was a selfish reason to even start serving. But God takes whatever you have and He'll work with it. Even if it starts off as something being selfish, it doesn't have to be very refined in the beginning. Eventually, He'll take a rock and turn it into whatever He wants to turn it into.
Okay. Monica, do you feel that there were things that your parents did when you were growing up that did not necessarily work?
Yes. So one thing is, if my parents tried to force me to go to church, everybody goes through like a rebellious phase where like, okay, you want me to do this? Okay, I'm not going to just because you told me to. So that definitely did not work for me because I wanted it, especially with church, it's something, it should be you want to go, not because someone's making you to. Because even if you go because you're forced to, you're not going with an open heart. So you're not really going to benefit as much if you chose to go. Like, I mean, I'm not saying like you wouldn't benefit at all, but it's still, you might go to like resent them, like if they force you to, you'd be like, okay, then that kind of drives a wedge between like you and your parents. So that was one big thing that it didn't do so much with me because I was one of the people who like I liked going to church. Like I made most of my friends were in church, so I was really looking forward to like Friday nights, Saturday nights Tisbaha, like Sundays, like all that. To go like for, of course, to like worship, but also like to see all my friends. So they didn't have to use that with me a lot, but that's something that definitely did not work when they tried it.
Did you feel that there was a good balance between social and spiritual when you were growing up? Because I know that a lot of our youth, they love going to church because of the activities that the church will have, summer camps, trips, Friday night activities, and so on. Do you feel that there was a good balance, or did you lean more towards one than the other?
To be honest, at first, at that point in my life, like, the teenage years, like, I just wanted to go out with my friends, like, like do something fun, like bowling or anything. So our church had a lot of those activities. So it was something better than going out with like, other friends who maybe we wouldn't make the best decisions. So that's why, and sometimes those friends from church, that was the only time I got to see them, is through those activities. So that was why I would want to go. But I think as I grew older, it was now it's a little more balanced, I'd say. I go, I like to see all the people there, and I like to see all the people I'm serving and things like that. But at the same time, I've come to learn more as even a servant. Someone had told me this before, that you're really not going to teach the kids as much as they're going to teach you, and that's definitely true from like my experience. So I go to see them, but also so I can get to like really learn from them, and of course to be able to feel closer to God. Like church is like the number one place for that. So.
Okay. John, the parents are going to drop off their kids at church. How do you, as a servant, balance between social activities and spiritual activities? Because you don't want the kids to be bored with just doing spiritual activities throughout. You want them to obviously want to be more engaged and want to come more, but you don't want to turn it into a social club. So what helps you keep the balance, or what do you do as a servant to kind of keep it balanced?
I mean, I think a kid is just like any other type of human, right? They have a gap that needs to be filled. They're hungry for something, right? So you have to look at each kid separately and not as a cookie cutter model. If the servant, I think, approaches them with that mentality, they can feel if that servant actually loves them or if he's just another number. So if you look at the kid as their own entity, their own person, and start exploring who they are, they open up more and they feel like, okay, this person actually has an interest in me. And once they feel like you have an interest in them, then they have an interest in whatever you have to tell them.
Okay.
So I think it's always the personal relationship between the servant and who they're serving first, and then the Spirit works through that. So it's really, it's just, it becomes dangerous when it's kind of a routine, when it becomes monotonous, because kids can pick up on it. So you might think that they're not that smart, but they're a lot smarter than us. So yeah.
Okay, and as a parent, do you feel the same way, or do you think that Sunday school teachers, especially for the younger kids, should focus on one thing or the other, or focus more?
I think it's a natural thing. I don't think it's an equation. I think it's once you establish that relationship with a child, it's gonna come natural because they're gonna come to you when they have questions, and that's really the golden opportunity to teach them. So, like my two daughters are very, very different people, raised in the same household, two same sets of parents, but they're very different. So, if you, as a servant, saw the last name Shocky and decided, oh, I'm just going to treat them exactly the same, you're going to lose one of them, right? So, as long as you understand who they are and you approach them for who they are, I think you'll be fine, and you're going to get that opportunity to teach.
So, John, parents drop off their kids at church. And it is one of your roles, one of the biggest roles, is to keep the kids engaged. So how do you feel that you can balance between both the social and the spiritual aspects of things? You don't want kids to be so bored by just doing the spiritual activities that they no longer want to come. But at the same time, you don't want to turn this into a social club. So how do you as a servant keep the balance between both?
I think, first of all, we have to realize that kids are just like any other group of people. They're individuals, right? So I believe that one of the main reasons why we lose kids is when we start looking at them as cookie-cutter models, right? So the number one thing for a servant to do is to approach a child and get to know who they are. Understand what their situation at home is. Understand why they believe what they believe. Why are they acting the way they're acting? And once you figure that, and the child can see that you are actually interested in them and they're not just another number in your class, it changes the entire dynamic between you and them. And the most important thing is for them to come to you, right? The golden moment of trying to give anything to a child is when they come and they ask you a question, because now they're in receive mode, not because they have to, but because they choose to. And they will only do that after you've established a relationship. So it's not a strict equation between social and spiritual. It's kind of a mix. It happens right intermingled in between each other.
And as a parent of young kids, did you ever think that you wanted their Sunday school teacher, for example, to focus more on one aspect or another?
I mean, don't get me wrong. When you drop off your child at church, and hopefully you don't just drop them off and leave. I think that's the worst thing ever. If you drop them off, stay, right? Like, go pray, do something. But if you're going to drop off your kid at church, your number one priority is spiritual, right? You're thinking to yourself, I'm bringing him to church. I want him to be spiritually fed. I want him to come back more spiritual than when I dropped him off. It's a ridiculous notion, right? It just doesn't happen overnight. But as a parent, yeah, I would love for it to be more spiritual.
Okay.
But I'm missing the point, right? And I think that's where parents miss, because they're used to being parents and they see that as a role. And they look at the Sunday school teacher and any servant as that's the role. They don't understand that the role doesn't work if you don't bring in something with it. Same thing at home. If you are strictly a parent, if you're always a disciplinarian, it doesn't work. So there has to be a good mix between being a disciplinarian and being a friend. Same thing with a servant. I have to be friends with your kid before he'll ever take anything spiritual from the church at all.
Okay. And you mentioned the parents obviously having a role at home, but I feel that, or how do you actually feel about parents that kind of just drop off the kids? Do you feel that them coming to church more often and maybe even serving at the church, does that make a difference for how engaged the kids come out to be?
Okay, so can I look at the camera and tell the parents something?
Yeah, please do.
Don't drop them off, right? Your kids are going to be what you are. So the few chosen vessels that God chooses, those are very different. Let's work on the majority of the average, right? The majority of the average is your kid is going to be who you are. So the more they come to church, the more their kids are going to want to come to church. If you don't want to come to church, your kid won't want to come to church. It's really that simple. If you drop them off and you leave, good luck.
Okay. So on a different note, and this question is actually for both of you, parents do a great job of praying with their kids at home and doing bedtime stories and so on. But how do you integrate the spiritual life in their everyday social activities? At home, I'm not talking about the mix in church, but at home. So what happened with you growing up? What do you do with your kids? So this question is for both. Monica, why don't you start?
Okay, so to kind of integrate the like spiritual aspect, I mean, it can be something very easy as like praying before you eat, you know, or like just something very simple, or like maybe like watching movies that are like more, you know, like Life of the Saints or something to kind of. I actually really like watching saint movies because it's like these people, like they're just like, you know, you and me, but they chose to consecrate their life for God and like look at, you know, like what happened to them, you know, like. So something like that. Or, I mean, it's something, it can be very simple as like just making sure the home is an environment of not, you know, like no like cursing or no like watching like bad movies or like listening to bad songs, just something like that. That even helps in like just allowing an atmosphere of really where God is present, you know, because I always, again, something I've heard a lot where if you want to do something, imagine God is sitting right next to you. Would you still do that or not? So like that kind of, I think that's a good thing for like a home, because if God is right, which he is, you know, with us everywhere. So if he's sitting right next to you, are you still okay with doing what you're doing?
Sean, what works with your kids?
Consistency.
Okay.
And prioritizing. So, you know, one of the things that we try to do is no matter what else is happening in the world, we will read the Bible and pray before we go to bed. So, you know, some parents you'll hear them say stuff like, oh, well, if we're late, maybe we don't have to read the Bible today.
Okay.
You know, maybe, you know, I don't want them to wake up late to school tomorrow. Well, you're giving them a message, right? I mean, school is more important than the Bible. School is more important than God. So it's consistency. If you're telling them God has to come first, show them that God has to come first. And then hypocrisy. Kids notice everything, right?
Sure
So
they
if
do.
you're telling them, oh, we only listen to Christian music, we only listen to tasbih, we only listen to taraneem, and then every morning while you're brushing your teeth, you're rocking some other music that's crazy, but it's in your bedroom, they know. They're not stupid. So practice what you teach so that way they can actually believe in it.
Okay. What advice do you give parents of teenagers? Now we've moved from younger kids and how to keep them engaged while they're young, but teenagers. So now we're at that rebellious age. We don't want to go to church. How should parents deal with that?
Go.
I think kind of like what I said before, I don't force them, and really they have to tell them something, but in a loving way, where like they really, even like, you know, oh, like you should go to church tomorrow. Like, no, I don't want to. They shouldn't be like, oh, okay, like fine, like don't go. Like, no, you should just be like, okay, talk about it. Like, why don't you want to go? At least just go, like, you know, go to Sunday school, go to some things where like you shouldn't like forcing them or like yelling at them for not wanting to. Like, I think that's the worst possible thing that parents can do, because they honestly, kids, like speaking from experience, they can resent not just the parents but even like church and like servants, and so like trying to talk to them and figuring out a way, like, why don't you want to go? Okay, well, you want to go see your friends, well, you can go see like your church friends, or like go after church. Just figuring out a way to still get them to go to church, but without being like mean or yelling, because I think that's a big thing, because that's what drives the kids away.
One last thing.
Absolutely.
If you're going to start parenting at your teenage years, you're way behind the ball.
I agree. So now that we've heard from both Jean and Monica, come and see what our youth are going to say. Welcome back, and welcome back to both of you. We have Amgad and Marlene with us. So this episode, we're talking about something a little bit different. We segued from being engaged in the church to advice to give to the parents. So I want to hear your perspectives as both high school students, so young adults in our church, as well as servants in the church. So you deal with obviously the younger kids. So I want to hear your advice to parents about how to keep their kids engaged, and then what kind of worked for you growing up. So why don't we start with Amgad?
Well, my advice to parents is plant the seed in your child at a young age so the roots of that seed can become stronger and stronger as time goes by. And by a seed, this meaning the Word of God, the church, the Bible, praying, whatever they like in the church, that's a seed. And the roots being their connection between the church and their spirituality between God, that's the roots. It has to be stronger. So when they grow up and then the world is trying to take them, those roots are going to be so strong, it's going to be difficult to take them out.
Okay.
And what kind of worked for me was encouragement. And my parents are always telling me to go. And sometimes I didn't want to, but they let me not want to, but then I actually went, and then I liked what I did there. And the more spiritual I got, the more I liked it. I liked Tasbih way too much. I always went every Saturday, and that's how my spirituality increased.
Okay. Marlene, what advice do you give?
I would totally agree with what Amgad say and start bringing them to church early, but I would also recommend not being too harsh on them, but at the same time letting them know you're in control. So like tell them to go to church, tell them that they have to, but don't force them to go, because as soon as you start making them go just for the sake of going, they're going to start not paying attention in the church and rebelling eventually. So just take it easy.
Do you feel that there were any things that did not work for you growing up that your parents did?
Honestly, I think that my parents were a little bit too lenient with us
Okay.
in allowing us to like go or not. But growing up, I was always like, I grew up in the church here and in Egypt, so it wasn't really that big of a problem for me growing up.
And can I tell something to parents too? This generation of little kids, they want something in return. So if you're gonna tell them, let's go to the church, make them, give them a reward. Like, let's go to the church and we'll go to this after. But not always, so they won't expect something every time.
Okay.
Like some parents will say, okay, let's go to this arcade game after church, and every kid is going to church just because they're gonna go to that arcade place every time they go. So give them something in return, but still keep that level intact of why they're going to church.
Okay. So you touched on a great point, and you gave good advice to parents with younger children. So let's say that you have friends your age that are at this age where they don't want to go to church anymore. What advice do you give them?
Why don't they want to go to church?
Okay.
Is there some people that they don't like there? Maybe is it the teacher? Maybe their friends, they don't like them. Somebody embarrassed them there. That's the reason why they have to give feedback on why they didn't go, and they're not still going. Maybe they don't like the service. They don't like that. They don't understand anything. Nobody is keeping in touch with them. Maybe they were sick and everybody knew, but nobody asked about him. That's the reason why we need to keep in touch with those people that don't want to come to church. We need to know the reason so we can help them.
Okay.
Let's say you go to a doctor. The doctor can't know your problem, so you have to give feedback to the doctor so that he can give you the right medication.
Okay. What about you, Marlene? Do you have any advice for them?
I would say, like I said earlier, to prioritize your time, do your homework, plan to do your homework before, plan to hang out with friends before you go to church, plan to like take off certain days of work, stuff like that, that'll help you have more time to go to church. And I would also recommend not going just for the sake of going, but also don't like never go.
Okay.
So go to pray, not just to like hang out with friends or just for the sake of being there, for the sake of saying like I went to church on Sunday and so on.
Okay. Do you feel that now that you are servants, do you feel that the parents have a role in keeping their kids engaged? And what advice would you give the parents on their role? So yes, I understand that they bring their kids to the church, but do you feel that the parents should stay more committed themselves, attend with the church? I know you do, you help with the choir. Do you feel that the parents should come and stay and watch the kids? Because I know that we have, again, as parents, we have busy lives, so sometimes we'll drop off the kids and run, do errands and so on. How do you feel about that?
I mean, sometimes I see parents drop them off while they're still in the car, drop them off and leave.
Okay.
I don't like that. When I see that, I want to do something about it. I want to tell parents that don't just stay in the car, drop them off and leave. No, get out, leave just watch them go, take them to class, and then tell them, have fun, listen to your teacher, make sure you get something out of it and learn. And after the class, when you pick them up, talk with them. What did you learn? How did that stay? Kids can't reword everything, but they do get some things and learn from the things. But we have to keep that intact in them so they won't lose it. And parents, I know when you drop them off for something, it's like freedom. You gotta go out there. Yeah, just when they're in there, you can do whatever you want, but still after you pick them up, go over what they did, and if the teacher advises you to go over something with them, do it, because it's for your child, that when they grow, it's going to be beneficial for them.
Okay. So Marlene, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say to try to involve your kids more at home, not just taking them to church and leaving. Try to go over what they learned in church at home as well, so that it actually sticks with them and not just goes in one ear and comes out the other.
Perfect. Thank you for your advice. And also, as a parent, I would love to add this. One of the things that we should encourage our kids to do is also to be involved in the service. So we need to encourage them to do more. We've been blessed with so much. Let's tell the kids that they need to also give back. Encouraging them to do that at a young age will allow them to grow up in the church and feel that they have a role as well and something to contribute. And later on, they will be servants and they will help our future generations. Thank you for watching us today, and we'll see you in the next episode of Come and See.